The first blow. The stars were quiet, the colonies were alive. People worked, children played, ships came and went, and humanity believed the galaxy was open for their future. But they were wrong, they were very wrong. The first attack came like a shadow. No warning, no message, only silence, then fire. One of the farthest colonies, Nova Prime, went dark. Its last transmission was only 3 words. They are here. At first, Earth thought it was a system failure, a broken relay. But then another colony went dark, then another. And soon the silence spread across the stars, each one a home, each one a dream. Now only ruins. The aliens came with speed no human ship could match, their weapons cut through steel. Their fire turned cities into glass. They did not take prisoners. They did not want peace, they wanted destruction. They wanted silence. The survivors told stories that shook even the bravest soldiers. They said the aliens did not speak. They did not ask. They only destroyed. Their ships moved like knives. Their weapons burned through shields as if they were paper. Their armies walked on worlds with no fear, and they killed without looking back. One mother on a refugee ship whispered again and again, "They killed everyone, they killed everyone," her voice shaking, her child clutching her arm, her eyes empty, and no one could answer her, because they all knew it was true. In the halls of Earth's government, the news spread like fire, generals shouted, leaders argued. Some called for war, others called for surrender, but no one had answers. No one could stop the falling of the colonies one by one. Like candles in the wind on the colony of Vega 3, a soldier named Mark saw the sky burn. The alien ships came in waves. His unit fought. They fired every weapon, but nothing worked. One by one his friends fell. One by one the bunkers exploded. And as he was pulled onto an evacuation shuttle, he looked down and saw the planet covered in fire. His home gone in a single night back on Earth. The people watched the news with disbelief. Every screen showed broken ships, burning cities, crying survivors. And the question on everyone's lips was the same. Why? Why are they doing this? But there was no answer. There was only fear. The scientists studied the wreckage of one alien ship that was somehow destroyed in battle. What they found was terrifying. The metal was stronger than anything humans had built. The energy core was like a small star, and the weapons were far beyond human science. One whispered, "They are centuries ahead of us," and yet, for all their power, the aliens gave no message, no warning, no reason. They did not demand resources. They did not ask for territory. They did not speak. It was extermination. Pure and simple, they wanted humanity gone. The first blow was more than an attack. It was a message, a cruel, silent message written in fire. Humanity was not welcome among the stars. Humanity was nothing but prey ships filled with refugees reached Earth. Broken people carrying nothing but stories of horror. One captain described how he saw 3 alien ships burn his station. He tried to fight back, but their beams cut his cruiser in half. He barely escaped with a handful of crew, and his words shook the room. We are children fighting gods, but humanity is stubborn. Humanity remembers pain. And in the ashes of fear, there was also a spark of anger, an anger that would soon grow, an anger that would shape everything to come for now. The aliens moved from one colony to another, like hunters moving through fields, killing without pause, their fleets unstoppable, their armies without mercy. The sky burned, the ground shook. The stars themselves seemed to fall, and humanity stood on the edge of extinction, on the last night of the colony Artemis. The people gathered in the shelters. They prayed, they cried, they held each other close, and above them the alien ships gathered like a storm. The ground shook as fire rained down. The shelters broke, the sky split open, and one little girl whispered to her father, "Daddy, why won't they stop?" But he had no answer. Only silence. The first blow had fallen, and it had struck deep. Earth had watched its children die across the stars. And the question now was not if they would fight back, but if they even could against an enemy so merciless, so silent, so unstoppable. The galaxy had spoken and humanity had heard. The war for survival had begun. Humanity's despair. The news of the first blow spread faster than light. Every colony, every ship, every home on Earth now carried whispers of fear. Families huddled around screens. Soldiers sharpened their weapons with shaking hands. Leaders sat in silence, and hope began to crumble. Earth had always been proud, the mother world, the heart of humanity. But now even Earth itself felt small, fragile like a candle in the storm. Because if the colonies, strong, distant, defended, had fallen so quickly, what chance did Earth truly have in the great chamber of the United Earth Council? The voices of leaders clashed like thunder. Some shouted for war. We must fight. We must strike back. Others shouted for surrender. If we resist, we will all die. We must bow before them. But no one had proof. No one had a plan. Only fear controlled the room. Generals stood at the center with grim faces. Their maps showed stars already turned silent. Whole sectors of colonies gone, fleets destroyed, names of worlds erased. And each glowing red mark on the map was not just a planet, but millions of lives lost, millions of voices silenced forever. The soldiers who survived brought stories that drained the blood from every heart. They spoke of weapons that melted steel, ships that moved like shadows, enemies who never spoke, never stopped, never spared, and when the leaders asked, "How do we fight this?" the soldiers gave no answer, only silence. Because they did not know, on the streets of Earth the people protested. Some carried signs that said, "Save us." Others cried out, "Fight back." But deep inside all of them was the same question: are we next? In the great cities, lights still shone, trains still ran, children still played, but under that normal life there was a crack, a growing fear, because every message from the stars carried more sorrow. Every day another colony fell, and everyone knew that one day soon, the fire would reach Earth itself. In the military academies, young cadets trained harder than ever. But their instructors saw the fear in their eyes. One cadet whispered to another, "We are training to die, not to win." And though his voice was low, everyone heard, and no one corrected him. Families tried to hold on to hope, but hope was thin. One father looked at his children and wondered if they would live long enough to see adulthood. One mother kissed her baby and whispered, "I am sorry for the world we gave you." And across Earth the same feelings spread. Sorrow mixed with anger, despair mixed with rage. Then came the night when the council revealed the truth. They broadcast to all of humanity, "We are at war. We face an enemy we cannot understand, an enemy that gives no reason, no peace, only destruction. But we will endure, we will fight, we will not vanish." The words were strong, but the faces behind them were pale, and people could see the fear in their eyes, yet hidden deep inside government bunkers and secret laboratories. Another conversation was happening. Away from the cameras, away from the people, scientists and generals gathered in cold rooms speaking of something forbidden, something kept secret for decades, a weapon never tested, a weapon never meant to be used unless humanity itself was about to die. They called it Project Starfall. Most of the council did not know of it. Most of the military did not know of it, only a few did, and those few carried the weight of silence. For Starfall was not a bomb, not a missile, not a fleet. It was something far greater, something terrifying. It was the power to kill a star itself. The scientists who built it swore it must never be used. They said the galaxy would call it evil. They said no species could forgive such destruction. But the generals now asked, what if it is our only chance? What if without Starfall we are gone, erased like dust? But before any decision could be made, the war worsened. Colonies closer to Earth fell. The refugees came in endless streams, their ships crowded, their faces empty, their voices broken, and the sight of them only deepened the despair. For every survivor was a reminder of billions who did not survive. One boy stepped off a refugee ship. His clothes burned, his eyes hollow, and when asked what happened to his world, he only said one word, gone, nothing more. Because nothing more could be said. The people of Earth now looked to their leaders for strength. But the leaders were trapped between fear and guilt. Should they fight and risk all? Or should they surrender and hope for mercy? But they knew the truth. Mercy was not in the nature of this enemy. Mercy was gone with the first blow. Despair became the shadow of Earth. It hung over every street, every home, every ship. Even the soldiers felt it. One captain stared at the stars and whispered, "We are alone out here, and no one is coming to save us." But hidden under the despair was something else. Something small, something dangerous, anger. Anger at the aliens who had killed so many. Anger at the leaders who had no answers. Anger at the universe itself. And anger has a way of turning despair into fire, and in that fire, in that silence, in that moment when humanity stood at the edge of death, the thought of Starfall returned. Louder this time, stronger this time, because maybe, just maybe, it was the only way humanity was broken. But humanity was not finished. Despair filled the air. But in the heart of that despair, a decision was coming. A decision that would change the galaxy forever. The secret weapon deep below Earth's surface, hidden in cold steel chambers where no sunlight reached, lay the project humanity was never supposed to speak of. A project born from fear decades ago, abandoned by hope, locked away with the promise it would never be used. Its name whispered only in shadows. Starfall was not a weapon in the normal sense. Not a gun, not a missile, not even a fleet. It was an idea turned into nightmare. A device built to touch the heart of a star itself, to twist its fire until it collapsed, to burn entire systems in a single strike, to end not only armies but whole worlds, whole suns, whole histories. Only a handful of scientists knew how it worked, and even they did not fully understand it. For Starfall was built from theories dangerous and strange, experiments that nearly broke the laws of nature. Its engine could spark a chain reaction inside a sun, a chain that no one could stop once it began, a chain that would turn light into death. The first scientist to speak of it again was Dr. Helena Vera, her voice low, her face pale. She looked at the generals and said, "If we do nothing, we will die. If we use Starfall, we will survive." But at what cost? The generals stared at her, some horrified, some grim, and one of them, Admiral Sloan, slammed his fist on the table and said, "Cost does not matter if humanity is gone. Cost does not matter if our children are ash. Better we burn their stars than let them erase ours." But others disagreed. General Marquez shook his head, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "If we use this, we will be monsters. No one will forgive us, not even history itself. We will not be saviors, we will be destroyers." The argument split the room. Fear against morality, survival against conscience. But the war outside gave no pause. More colonies fell. More ships went silent. And every red mark on the star map pressed heavier on the council's shoulders, Doctor. Vera knew what Starfall meant. She had helped design it in her youth, when she still believed it was only a theory, never to be built, never to be touched. And yet here it was, locked in the deepest vaults of Earth, waiting, humming with silent power, and she hated herself for knowing it might be the only way. When the council debated, the people did not know. They only saw despair on the news, flames in the sky, refugees arriving in endless waves, but behind closed doors humanity was deciding if it would cross a line no species had ever crossed before. The line between war and extermination at night. Admiral Sloan walked alone on the balcony of the command tower. Looking at the stars, he thought of his family, his children, his grandchildren, and he whispered to himself, "I will not let them live as prey. I will not let humanity die begging for mercy." Meanwhile, General Marquez sat with soldiers in the barracks, listening to their fear, their anger, their hopelessness. He thought of honor, of history, of what it meant to be human, and he whispered to himself, "If we kill stars, we kill more than them. We kill ourselves." The debate was not only in the council, it was in every heart, every home, every soldier, every scientist. Because the truth was simple. Humanity had no chance against this enemy. Not with ships, not with guns, not with courage. Only with Starfall. Then came the test, hidden in the asteroid belt, a small starless system. They placed a fragment of the Starfall device near a dead rock and lit its core, and for a moment nothing happened. Then space itself shook, the rock split apart, and light brighter than dawn filled the chamber's screens. The power was real. The terror was real, and silence fell over the room, Doctor. Vera closed her eyes, tears slipping down her face. "It works, God help us." "It works," Admiral Sloan turned to the council, his voice hard as iron. "Now you know, now you see, the choice is simple. Use it or die." The council broke into chaos, some shouting, some weeping, some sitting silent, because now the weapon was no longer theory, it was fact, and facts cannot be ignored, not when the stars are burning. Outside the chamber, soldiers prepared in silence. They did not know the full truth, but rumors spread like fire, whispers of a weapon that could kill suns, whispers of a vengeance so great it would shake the galaxy. Some soldiers smiled grimly, others looked sick with fear, but all of them understood. Something had changed among the people. Despair was still heavy, but deep underground a seed of something new began to grow. Not hope, not yet, but resolve. A dark resolve that said, if they wish to erase us, we will erase them first. The secret of Starfall was no longer hidden. It was rising, creeping into every decision, every whisper, every sleepless night. Humanity stood at the edge of extinction, but now it also stood at the edge of godlike destruction. The secret weapon was real. It was awake, and soon the galaxy would know its name. The counterstrike. The day came when the debates ended, when the tears dried, when the fear turned into steel, and humanity made its choice. The council voted in silence, no cheers, no applause, only grim faces and heavy hearts. Starfall would be used, The order spread through hidden channels, through encrypted wires whispered in command bunkers. Prepare the fleet, prepare the weapon, prepare for the counterstrike. Earth's shipyards lit up like fire. Thousands of engineers worked without rest, building, repairing, arming, because the fleet they had was broken. But the fleet they needed had to carry Starfall, had to fly into the heart of the enemy and release a nightmare no one had ever dared before. The soldiers knew what it meant. They saw the look in their commander's eyes. They heard the whispers in the hangars and they felt the weight in their bones. This mission was not about survival for themselves. It was about survival for humanity, and most of them would not come back. Admiral Sloan stood before them, his uniform sharp, his voice steady, but his eyes heavy. We do not fight for glory. We do not fight for conquest. We fight because we must. They have burned our homes. They have silenced our families. They believe we are prey. Tonight we will show them humanity is not prey. Tonight we strike back. The fleet launched. Ships rising from Earth's orbit like sparks into the void. Engines roaring, hearts pounding. Families watching from the ground below. Some waving, some crying, knowing that many of those ships would never return, knowing that their loved ones were flying into death itself. At the center of the fleet was the carrier Eclipse, a massive vessel built in secret, its core holding the first true Starfall device, sealed in layers of steel, surrounded by soldiers who guarded it like a holy relic. For it was not only a weapon, it was the last card, the final breath of humanity's will doctor. Vera was there too, not as a soldier, but as the guardian of knowledge, her hands trembling as she checked the codes, the circuits, the power lines, every part of her wishing the weapon would fail, every part of her knowing it must succeed, her heart a storm of guilt and resolve. The journey to the alien system was long and silent, every soldier strapped in, every pilot staring at the stars, every captain whispering to themselves. Some prayed, some cursed, some sang old songs under their breath, but all knew the truth. This was not just a mission, this was judgment. When they reached the edge of the alien home system, the fleet held position. Sensors showed massive enemy presence, ships larger than cities, weapons brighter than suns. And for a moment fear returned, the kind of fear that freezes the blood, the kind of fear that says, we should turn back, but no one turned back. The aliens moved first, their fleet sweeping like shadows, black wings across the void, their weapons charging, their silence louder than thunder. They had no need to speak. Their message was already clear: an extermination. The human fleet answered. Missiles fired, lasers cut the dark, shields flared, space lit up with fire. The first wave of human ships fell, their wreckage spinning into the void, their voices silenced mid-cry, but the rest pressed forward, because behind them was Earth, and behind them was extinction. Admiral Sloan stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his hands gripping the rail, watching ships die one by one, and he turned to Dr. Vera. Is the weapon ready? Her voice shook, but she nodded. It is ready. The Eclipse drove forward, deeper into the storm, enemy ships closing in, shields breaking, hulls cracking, soldiers screaming in comms, but still they pressed on, protecting the carrier, guarding the weapon, buying seconds with their lives until finally, they reached position. The weapon bay opened, Starfall armed, codes unlocked, the system counting down. 5 minutes until detonation, 5 minutes until a star itself would be turned into fire, 5 minutes until the galaxy would change forever. Enemy ships swarmed, waves of them firing, tearing through steel. The Eclipse shook with every strike. Alarms screaming, decks breaking, but the crew held, gunners firing with blood on their hands, engineers patching leaks while flames burned their skin, pilots ramming enemy ships with their last breath, all so that the countdown could continue. Doctor Vera stared at the screen, tears in her eyes, whispering, forgive me, forgive us, as her hands finished the final code, locking the device, sealing the fate of a star. The countdown reached 1, and in that instant the void went silent. Starfall activated. A pulse invisible to human eyes shot into the heart of the alien sun, and for a moment nothing happened, only silence, only fear that it had failed. Then the star began to tremble. Light rippled across its surface, waves of fire twisting, gravity breaking, the heart of the system turning unstable, and then it collapsed, not slowly, not gently, but violently. Brighter than 1,000 dawns, louder than the screams of fleets, the star tore itself apart, and everything near it, ships, stations, worlds, was swallowed in the fire. The alien fleet was gone, their home system burning, their pride turned into ash, their silence broken at last not by words, but by screams carried across the void, and humanity had struck its first true blow on the eclipse. Survivors watched the light with hollow faces. Some cheered, some wept, some fell silent in shock. Because they had won, yes. But what they had unleashed was greater than victory. It was terror, and the whole galaxy would soon know what humanity had done. The counterstrike was complete. The star was dead, the enemy broken, but the war was not over. No, it had only begun. Fire among the stars, the star was gone. Where once there had been light, warmth and life, there was now only fire, wreckage and silence. The enemy fleet had vanished in the explosion. Their worlds burned, their home system shattered. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They had killed a star. Across the bridge of the eclipse, no one spoke for a long moment. Soldiers who had been screaming minutes earlier now sat in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the screens, watching the fire expand, watching entire planets vanish into waves of light. Some whispered prayers, some whispered curses, but most said nothing at all, because there are no words for destroying a sun. Admiral Sloan stood stiff at the command rail, his jaw locked, his eyes unblinking. He had wanted victory, and now he had it. But as he stared at the burning system, he felt no triumph. He felt only weight, a weight heavier than any star, heavier than any chain. He had ordered the death of millions, maybe billions. Dr. Vera could not watch. She turned from the screen, her hands shaking, her heart breaking. She had dreamed once of exploring stars, of touching their mysteries, of using science to bring light, not darkness. And now her greatest work was not creation, but destruction. She whispered to herself, "What have we done? What have we become?" But no answer came. On Earth, when the news broke, people did not know how to react. Some cheered, waving flags, crying with relief, shouting, "We are safe, we are strong, we can win." Others stood frozen, horrified, whispering, "We killed a sun, we killed a world, we killed more than soldiers, we killed everything." The images spread everywhere, the fire of the dead star filling every screen, every device, every corner of human life. Children asked their parents, "Did we win?" And parents answered with hesitation, because what kind of victory burns so bright it blinds the future? But beyond Earth, in the wider galaxy, the reaction was far more chilling. Other species, other civilizations who had watched the war from afar, now looked at humanity not with pity, not with sympathy, but with fear. For centuries they had thought of humans as young, fragile, untested. Now they saw something different, something terrifying. A species that had suffered, yes, but also a species that would not die quietly. A species willing to burn the stars themselves if pushed too far. Whispers traveled from system to system, station to station. The humans have a weapon that can kill suns. Some dismissed it as rumor, some laughed in disbelief. But those who had seen the light in their telescopes, those who had recorded the fire across the void, they knew it was no lie, and fear spread. Meanwhile, the aliens who had started the war, the silent destroyers of colonies, the hunters who had shown no mercy, now felt something they had never expected. Pain. Their fleets were broken, their home star gone, their voice across the galaxy shattered. For the first time in their history, they had been wounded. In their hidden councils, in their shadowy chambers, the surviving leaders raged and grieved. They had thought humanity weak. They had thought the prey would fall quickly, but now the prey had become a predator with fire beyond imagination. The war was not over. No, it was only entering a darker chapter. Back on the eclipse, survivors gathered in the mess hall, silent, eating without speaking. Some soldiers stared at their food without touching it. Others stared out at the stars, wondering if they would ever see home again. One young pilot finally broke the silence, whispering, "We did it. We destroyed them." But his voice was thin, uncertain, and no one answered. Admiral Sloan walked among his crew, speaking quietly, offering what little comfort he could, but he knew their eyes had changed. They were no longer just soldiers. They were witnesses to something history would never forget. In the council chambers on Earth, leaders debated once more, their voices heavy. Some demanded they build more Starfall devices to end the war quickly. Others begged them to stop, to never use it again, to find peace before the galaxy turned against them. But no decision came, only endless arguments, because once a sun has been destroyed, nothing can ever return to normal. Among the people, anger still burned, but so did fear. Was Starfall a savior, or was it a curse? Would humanity rise as victors or fall as monsters? No one knew. And yet, even in the silence, one truth grew stronger. The aliens now feared humans. For the first time since the first blow, the enemy hesitated. Their fleets did not charge forward at once. Their advance slowed. Their silence cracked with uncertainty. Humanity had shown them that the cost of this war would not be paid by humans alone. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble. Stars were no longer symbols of light. They were weapons, and everyone knew humanity had the power to turn them into fire. The war for survival had become something greater, something darker. Humanity had crossed a line no one had dared before, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. And as the fire among the stars slowly dimmed, as the wreckage of the enemy floated in silence, one question echoed louder than all others. Had humanity saved itself, or had it doomed itself to be feared and hated until the end of time? The price of victory, the fire of the dead star, faded slowly, but the shadow it left behind stretched across the galaxy. Humanity had survived its first counterstrike, but survival had come at a cost that no one could ignore, a cost measured not in numbers alone but in conscience, in fear, in the silent judgment of the stars themselves. On the carrier Eclipse, silence ruled the decks. The soldiers who had fought, who had seen their friends die to protect the weapon, now sat in quiet corners, their eyes empty. Victory tasted bitter. For every alien ship destroyed, a human ship had also fallen. Thousands of their own were gone, floating as wreckage in the void, names already fading into the endless lists of the dead. One pilot, his arm broken and his face scarred, whispered to his crewmate, "We won, but why does it feel like we lost?" His question had no answer, because in their hearts everyone knew. Winning by destroying a sun was not the same as winning by courage alone. Admiral Sloan walked the length of the command bridge, his steps heavy. Reports came in one after another, ships destroyed, captains dead, fleets broken. But his focus kept returning to the fire that had once been a star. He had ordered it, he had unleashed it, and though his duty told him it was right, his soul whispered otherwise. He looked at his reflection in the black glass and asked himself, "Am I the protector of humanity or the executioner of the galaxy?" Dr. Vera stayed alone in her lab, her hands trembling as she replayed the data of the Starfall detonation. The science was perfect, flawless, terrifying, and yet she wept because what had once been knowledge, discovery, wonder had become death. She whispered to herself again and again, "I never meant for this. I never meant for this." On Earth, the news was greeted with confusion. Crowds filled the streets, some cheering, some weeping. Mothers held portraits of lost sons, proud they had fought, broken that they were gone. Children waved flags shouting, "We are strong," while elders shook their heads whispering, "We are cursed." The council chambers turned into battlefields of words. Some leaders demanded more Starfall devices. "Let us end this war quickly. Let us burn every system they own." Others recoiled in horror. "We have already gone too far if we do this again. The galaxy will never forgive us, we will be monsters forever." But the most frightening truth was this. It was no longer only about survival. The moment humanity had destroyed a sun, they had become something else in the eyes of the galaxy. Other species, neutral and distant, watched the recordings with fear. To them, humans were no longer victims. They were destroyers. Whispers filled the void. The children of Earth can kill stars. Trade ships from alien neighbors stopped approaching human colonies. Old allies sent no messages. Neutral systems closed their borders. Humanity had not only gained power, it had gained isolation. And yet the enemy, the alien hunters who had started the war, finally slowed. Their fleets no longer surged with unstoppable confidence. Their commanders hesitated. Their silence cracked with uncertainty. For the first time, they considered retreat. Humanity had made them bleed. Humanity had made them afraid. But even in that fear, the cost of victory grew heavier. Refugee ships filled Earth's orbit, millions without homes. Survivors of colonies burned before Starfall was unleashed. Cities overflowed, resources strained, tempers flared. People asked bitterly, "What did we win when half our people are dead, when half our homes are gone?" A soldier returning from the front stepped onto Earth soil and fell to his knees, kissing the ground, but when asked about the battle, he only shook his head, eyes hollow, saying, "Don't ask me what we did, don't ask me what we saw. Just know it will never leave me." The weight of Starfall pressed down not only on those who fired it, but on all of humanity. To be the species that destroyed a star was not just a weapon. It was a mark, a scar, one that would never fade. In hidden corners of the galaxy, new councils gathered, not human but alien. They whispered in their own tongues, "If humans can burn stars, then no one is safe. They must be watched. They must be contained." Humanity had bought survival, but at the price of suspicion, fear, and enemies they had not yet seen. And so Earth stood in a strange place. Victorious yet wounded, strong yet isolated, proud yet cursed. The dead were mourned, the living questioned, and the leaders argued, but all of them knew the same truth. There was no going back. Once a species kills a star, it can never return to innocence. On the Eclipse, as the survivors prepared for the long journey home, Admiral Sloan looked at Dr. Vera. Neither spoke, but both knew what the other was thinking. They had saved their people, yes, but at what cost? The price of victory was heavy, heavier than the wreckage of ships, heavier than the silence of soldiers. It was a price that would echo through history, and above them the stars continued to burn, each one now a reminder, each one now a question. How many more would fall before this war was over? The future. The war was not finished, but something had changed forever. The galaxy no longer looked at humanity as a fragile young race struggling to survive. The galaxy now looked at humanity with wide, fearful eyes, whispering in shadows, "They can kill stars." On Earth, cities buzzed with uneasy life. Refugees filled the streets, their worlds gone, their dreams stolen. Families carried grief like a shadow, remembering the colonies that no longer existed. Yet even in sorrow there was pride. People whispered to one another, "We struck back. We made them bleed. We are not prey." In the halls of the United Earth Council, leaders argued day and night. Some demanded more starfall devices, saying, "It is our only defense, our only chance." Others begged for restraint, saying, "One star was too much. If we do this again, the galaxy will unite against us." But no decision came, because the choice was too heavy and the future too uncertain. Admiral Sloan returned home to a hero's welcome, crowds cheering, soldiers saluting, but his heart was not light. He stood before the people and raised his hand, his voice steady as he said, "We survived, yes, but survival is not the end. We must be careful, for the fire we hold can save us, but it can also consume us." His words were strong, but in his eyes there was only weariness. Dr. Vera lived in silence. She locked herself away in her lab, haunted by the fire she had unleashed. To her, the galaxy was no longer a place of wonder, but a graveyard of stars waiting to be destroyed. She wrote in her private journal, "I gave humanity survival, but I may have also given it its doom. If we use starfall again, it will not only be our enemies who fear us, it will be everyone." Across the galaxy, alien councils met in secret. Some swore to avoid humanity, to build walls around their borders. Others swore to watch closely, to never let humans grow unchecked. And a few whispered of alliances, not out of friendship but out of fear. For better to stand beside the destroyers of stars than to stand against them, the enemy. The silent hunters who had begun the war were broken but not gone. Their home star was dead, their fleets shattered, yet still they lingered in the shadows of space. They had tasted defeat for the first time, and though they feared humanity, they also burned with rage. In their dark councils they whispered, "We will return. We will strike again, and next time no weapon will save them." Humanity knew this. The soldiers who survived carried the memory of battle in their eyes, the sound of ships exploding, the light of a star collapsing. They trained harder, they built faster, because they knew the war was not over. Starfall had bought them time but not peace. On Earth, children looked up at the night sky differently. Once they had seen beauty, now they saw danger. Each star a reminder of what could be lost or what could be destroyed. Teachers told stories of courage, but always with the shadow of fear. A new generation was growing up, one that had never known safety, only war. And yet within that fear there was also something else, determination. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Humanity had been underestimated and proved stronger than anyone believed. The price had been heavy, but the will to endure had not broken. Admiral Sloan gathered his commanders for one last speech before the next campaign. He looked at each of them, scarred, weary, hardened, and he said, "We did not choose this war, but we will finish it. We did not ask for this weapon, but we will carry it. The galaxy must understand one truth. Humanity will not be erased." The room echoed with silence, but it was not despair this time. It was resolve. The Eclipse floated in orbit, scarred from battle but alive. Its crew prepared for the next mission, their eyes steady, their voices calm. They knew what lay ahead. They knew the enemy would return. And they knew that if more stars had to fall, they would make it happen. But somewhere deep inside each of them was the same question. How many stars could humanity burn before the galaxy turned against them completely? How many victories could they claim before victory itself became meaningless? No one had the answer. In the quiet of space, the stars still burned, ancient and eternal. Humanity now carried the power to end them, but also the burden of deciding when to use that power. The future was uncertain, the path dark, but one truth remained clear. The aliens had wiped out their colonies. Humanity had annihilated their stars. And in that terrible balance, a legend was born. The story of Earth was no longer just about survival. It was about power, fear, and the question of what kind of future a species creates when it holds the fire of suns in its hands. The war was not over. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's story had only just begun.